Yeah, I think we are good to go. So let me just dive into today's topic, then we start from there. I hope everyone is seeing my screen still. Let me zoom in here. Yeah, so let me wait a bit. I just want to access the chat so that I can paste it. Alright. So let me paste this link here. So this is the first resource. Someone can take note of that, or the moderator, then at the end you'll share with everyone. So this is the that documentation guide, whereby we shall be going through this page about classes and what they do. Then after that we go into a live coding demo here. I'll change this to light mode, yeah, so that everyone can see. So we'll first go through that page, then after that we switch to the coding session. Alright, I think that will be fine. Yeah. Alright, I'll start from here. So I don't know if most of you have done programming. Maybe you can let me know in the chat so that when I'm explaining, I just know the people I'm explaining to. Yeah, maybe you can put like this thumbs up if you know, then if you don't, maybe this one, so that I can just know the audience I'm talking to, and then I give the session accordingly. Alright, I see most of you have done the coding bit of it. That's fine, so it will make it easier when I'm also presenting. Alright, I think that's a good number so far. Alright, so for now there is an online editor called datpad.dev. So in case you don't have that installed on your machine, or you don't have Flutter installed, we can use this online IDE, datpad.dev, so that we test out some of these functionalities. Let me paste this also in the chat. So that datpad.dev is what we shall use today as our IDE. Then additionally, there are a number of resources that I'm basing on. I compiled a list of resources from my previous talks, resources to guide someone who has just started Flutter. So as you dive deeper from the basics you have been learning from those past days and past sessions, and you want to dive more in Flutter, get some resources to assist you along the way, some free tools you can use, some YouTube channels, some documentation. So I'll also paste it in the chat. It is the one on. Oh, wait a bit. Right, sorry, my connection had gone off, but let me share my screen again. So I was still saying I have this repo here. It is a collection of a number of Flutter resources that can help you in your journey, mostly for those who are starting out. It has a number of resources that can help you along the way. I attached links there to some extensions, some quick guides that you can use, some YouTube channels, and some courses you can take on. So it is a very good one. I'll paste its link also in the chat. I hope there's someone noting those links that I'm pasting so that you can share with others after. But in case you fail to get the links, you can just always go to my website here, cephas.me/community. Then you'll find there the links. You just find this repo, you click on view code, then you'll be able to access the resource or open slides. So even this talk of classes in that. I'll also upload it here on the website so that you can find its slides and the code, and you'll find the video and also these links, so in case you miss, you'll still get it. Yeah, so I think we can start here. So first of all, classes, like I said, it is more like object-oriented programming, and mainly objects. An object can be anything that you're using in your application. Okay, in simple terms, without using much of these technical terms, it can be anything that you're using in your application. Mostly if your application is connected to like a database, or you want to interact with a large amount of data, you'll need these objects, which are classes here. So here in Flutter, you can see here they say objects can have members, and here they give you some of the ways an object can have a member, but for easy explanation, I'm going to create here in that part a class, so that we use that one as I explained side by side. I think to make it easier, let me move this to a new window, then I put it on the side, and then here, so that you can see this in practice, or in case you want to look at it after on your own, it is easier. Alright, yeah, so for now I'll use a class, maybe person, like this. So in that, this is how we write classes. You use this class keyword, then the name of the class. I think for those who have done coding, you know that this is the syntax for most languages. You write this class, then the class name, then these brackets. So inside this class, we can have various parameters. For example, a person can have a name, can have maybe age, they can have maybe address, so any number of fields based on your liking. So
एक काम करता हूँ, मैं भी करता हूँ, तेरे को अभी मैं क्लास में हूँ, थोड़ी देर में करता हूँ, ठीक है?
oh, someone needs to mute. Okay, so a class can have a number of variables like this, which are parameters, and these are the ones they call here these members. So it can have a number of those. It has no limit on the number it can take in. So from our person class here, a person can have like a name, age, and address. Someone is raising a hand. Yes, feel free to ask.
Sir, actually, I am unable to see your screen.
Oh, maybe let me present again and see. But I think most people are able to see the screen.
Yeah, it is visible, but sometimes it's the person's network.
Oh, okay, yeah, I think so. Because I can see it here, it is showing. Alright, so I was saying, good thing most of you know programming, so I won't go into the basics of what a string is. Then I think you know these data types: strings, integers, booleans. I think you know those ones. So int, age. So these are various parameters that can be used in this person class. Then final string address, like that. So a person class can have any of these variables. Then to access them, we need a constructor, and then we shall also go into, now that is this section here of constructors, because the only way we can create an object to access this class and then initiate it with values is when we use constructors, which is the next topic here. And then constructors in Flutter can be done in a number of ways. Let me shift this code to my IDE so that we are faster. Alright, let me just copy it here. So we are creating a class called person, we shall use this same one, because in this session we shall build a mini profile app showing various people who are part of this person object. So in short, we shall create the class and then use it in our Flutter app. So I'm just using here the IDE so that we are faster. Yeah. So I said there are a number of ways of creating these constructors. So in that, there's an extension called let me, it is part of these resources which I shared here earlier. There's this extension called data class generator. This one, it helps you to generate a data class or even constructors. So I'll first create this constructor here. You just right click, control dot on the code, then that. So this is our person object, then with the constructor here. Let me just comment it here, constructor. So there are various ways to create a constructor, because in many scenarios you might have your records and they are all not initiated in the same way. So for example, maybe these records are coming from an API or your backend, of which the backend is usually in JSON format. So let me just write here from backend, which is in JSON, or they are coming from, let's say, your CSV file that you have changed to JSON. So you can also create another constructor with this factory keyword. So this factory keyword just tells the dat compiler that this is another way of initiating this person object, in that if someone doesn't use this constructor, they can use this other constructor which is in this format. Additionally, sometimes you might need to create an empty constructor. So how you do that is in this format, but let me show you here in the guide how they initiate that. So these are the variables that we are talking about, the variables of a given class. So here in the code I'm trying to go faster, but if you need like more details, you can always read through step by step here, but here in the code I'm just going through faster. So there are various ways you can initiate this. So this one of the empty constructor, it is here is an example of how it is initialized, in case you're wondering. So you just create a constructor, then you give it a name, as you can see here. For example, if we wanted default, sorry, on my end I have like this AI which auto completes code, but you can just follow along. So we have, sorry, so you let me just go step by step. So you just create right here the name of the class, then the name of this constructor, the way you want it to be called, and then you come here just at the end, you put these semicolons, and then you start initializing the values for this constructor. So for example, you can put the name, let me select a participant here, Califani. Yeah, I'll use your name. So name equals to Califani. Yeah, then the age, any age, then the address I'll put for now Cavalry University. Yeah, like that. So this can be another way of initializing a constructor. So if you don't do it in this way, you can do it in this way, or you can use this same format, or if you don't do this format, you can use this other third format that you saw here, where you use a factory. This is a factory keyword, and what it does, it is just mainly used to reproduce the same object, but while taking in parameters. So that's what it does. So here the naming default person. Yeah, so this error was just telling us default, since it is a keyword in Flutter, it can't be used. So I just have to rename it here like I did, default person. Let me do that like that. So these are various ways to create a constructor. Let me format here so that you can see. So another way of creating a constructor of this given class is there's a method called copy with. So this one, you use it just to create a copy of this object that you're using. For example, you want for example, in this chart we might have someone from Kabale University who is also 20 years of age. So instead of defining this name every time, instead of defining these parameters every time, since we know that they are not changing, we just want to change only the name, but the rest can stay, where the age is 20 and the address is still Kabale University. So to do that, there is a method in that called copy with. Let me scroll here so that someone can see it down here. Right. Okay, I think here they didn't talk about it, but it just creates a copy of this class. So using the other extension I showed you, this one of that data class generator, maybe let me put for you the link in the chat. So this extension just helps you to create some additional features in your class that you might need. For example, you want to convert from JSON. For example, you want to create a copy of this. So instead of manually writing this code, you just install that extension in your VS Code. Then you just control dot on your class. So here I just want to create this one of copy with. So it will create for me that. So here, so this is another constructor, copy of this person. So what this does is that it creates just a copy of our person object, but initializes it with these values. I'll show you an example when we run, because I'm going to build here a simple app, then we test it out. So I'm going to show you an example of all that. The other way is that the other way of initializing these constructors, you can also have another class. Let's say, let me create another class called student. So we might have another class called student, but this student is also a person, so he has to borrow some attributes from the person. So there, that is inheritance. When it comes to object-oriented programming, that is inheritance. So we shall inherit from this person class. So I'll just put here extends person. So that means we get all the features in this person, and then we assign them to this student. Let me just import here. All right. So here, student, let me just, student, I'm commenting so that in case you get access to this repo, you'll find there all these. It is easy to follow along. So student inherits from person. So in short, this student class is a child of the parent class. So this means that it copies all the methods we have here, all the parameters we have here. It extends them, but also adds its own parameters. In this case, we have student ID. So this student has every characteristic of a person, but in addition to getting all those characteristics, they get the student ID. So fine. So now, since this is inheriting from the parent, so the parent class becomes the super class. Let me comment it here so that someone can follow along. So the person class becomes the super class in this case. So the way to create a constructor for this student, so since we are inheriting from parent, so it means we are inheriting some of these variables like name. We're also inheriting the age and the other parameters we had, the name. So name, age, and address, super dot address. So this super keyword means that inherit everything we have from the parent class, and then just add this other variable which is in this student class, like that. So I'll create here student ID. Like that. So here it is showing errors whereby you can't initiate it like this. So since these are named parameters, so in Flutter actually I forgot to show you, but I'm going to show you that in a few. So in Flutter we have named parameters. Okay, other languages you might not find these named parameters, but in Flutter we have them. Let me go back here. Let me just create a simple dot program here. Before we come into this Flutter code, let me just create a simple dot app, just only that, without including Flutter, so that you get these principles easily. So alright, so what I mean by named parameters is that when you come back here to this website, let me show you. You can either initialize your values like this without putting names to them. You just put them directly, like the way it is done in like Java or some other object-oriented programming languages, whereby the constructor, you just put it in this format. So let me just comment it here so that you can see. So here, this is a constructor with named parameters. Okay. So in case you want a parameter, a constructor without these named parameters, we shall see the use cases of each of these when we come to the Flutter side of it. You'll see how these are used. So in this scenario, you can either have named parameters or you just have these ones which are not named. By this I mean, let me show you an example down here. Let me just show you an example when initializing. So here it is showing these errors because at first we had used named parameters, but now we are switching to this format which is not named. So an example would be example person without named parameters. So here you write final. Yeah, let me use this person called Polly. So final person 1. So a person called Polly, let me just write that. Yeah, so final Polly equals to person that. So Polly then with these details. So this is how we would do it without named parameters, but you can see this one is kind of prone to errors because you have to keep track in your mind that in the first position there is name, then there is address, then there is age. But with named parameters, the advantage it has is that you don't need to cram all this. You just come here and say that this person Polly, then you just put the names of these parameters, that his name is that, then the age, and then the address. So here it puts it as a named. You can see the parameters are named, so this makes it easier in case you are referring to your code later on. You can know that this is what I initialized and this value goes to this variable, unlike in this first scenario whereby you don't know what goes where. So that is one advantage. So I'll keep it here if someone can refer to it, but I would recommend that we all use named parameters because it reduces on the errors, yeah, and also the values, because here, since you might not know that this first string takes on the name and you put maybe the city or the address as the first, then so this won't show an error, because if you are not using these named parameters, it will still work normally, yet in actual sense in the background this will be more like a logical error because these values are initialized badly, but here you won't know because the values are all the same, they are not named. But at least here you can tell that here we need a name and you put it. Yeah, so I'll go back to our named here. Yeah, all right. So another method, we are going to now use all these constructors and also we see how they work. So the next one, let's say, let me get another member from the meeting here, Simon. Yeah, so assuming we want to, here I'll change the location to Kabale University. Yeah, so assuming we want to create another object of Simon, so we'll write final Simon, but now we know that also Simon is from Kabale University, so we don't need to change this. Maybe the age and the name will be changing. So what we do, we shall get Poly's details. We put poly dot copy with. So like I told you, this copy with constructor just helps you to create a copy of the existing object. So we shall create a copy of Poly, but what we are changing is the name to Simon. We can then leave other values. So you can change either the name or age only, or you can change name and age, any value you want to change. So this means that we shall have this Simon object, but it will still have these variables, but only the name will change. Maybe I can show you here a compiled example to best show this. All right, let me import this. And all right, so let me put these prints so that we can, so print poly, let me just do this. Okay, so we shall be logging this so that you can follow along. Poly equals to, so this is similar to printing in other languages. For that you just write the print keyword. So I'll click here on run. Let me see, sorry, I'll just run it here in the terminal. Let me put the terminal on the right so that or even here can be fine, but let me just push it on the right. Move to primary secondary sidebar. Yeah, so I've just put it here on the right so that we can just all follow along. So here in the terminal we can see it is compiling, and okay, I don't know if you can all see it, but it's compiling and prints poly equals to that instance of person. But since we want to see the values, I'm going to show you another method that we are going to add to the constructor still. So another method is there's a method called toString. You see this one, toString. So that's why I was telling you all to get this extension of that data class generator, because it will save you a lot.
Yeah, power is gone.
Power is gone.
Oh, someone should mute.
This is not serious.
Yeah, Charles, you can mute. So
They are there.
We are still there.
Charles, you can mute. So I was saying, you all get this extension of that data class generator, and then it is what you'll use for some of these functions so that you don't have to write code manually. So here I'll click this balloon here, then I write generate.toString. So what this will do, it will convert this whole object into a string, that when we print it here in the terminal we shall see all its values. So it just overrides this default method. So let me just put here comment prints string. Okay, I'm going to pardon on that. So the extension I said is this one, that data class generator. let me put it here in the chat. Yeah, I had pasted it there earlier, but I've pasted the link again. So it just helps you to generate data classes. In that it has a number of functionalities, because all you do is just create one constructor, then always hover over your class, and then you'll get all these functionalities for you, so you don't have to rewrite this code manually. Yeah, so now we have created this toString method. So meaning when we come here to our terminal and compile this code, it will always print for us the details. So I'll rerun the code again. So you can now see that it prints person, poly equals to person, then his details, you can see them here. So at first, before we created the toString, it was printing instance of person, but now that we have the toString method, you can see it now here, it prints all the details as we need them. So this also shows you this thing I was telling you about, the copy with method, whereby we create a copy. So you can see we created a copy of this poly object, but then we changed the age, we changed only the name, but the age and address all remain the same. So that is another example of constructors. So another way, we are going to create a sample JSON. Let me see. So in case we also wanted this empty person, we can just come here and write final empty. So this one you can just use it as a default value in some scenarios where you might not want to initialize the person, but you just want some empty value. So you do that. You can see empty is printed with that. So still you can create a copy. Let me just get another person here, Charles. So I'll create Charles. So final. So here we can still get a copy from this empty object. So I'll put empty. So now we just get a copy of this and initialize it with these values. So this one is important in scenarios where you have like a big list. For example, we know most people here are from Cavalry University, so in case you have like a big list of these items and you don't want to keep typing these values manually, you just create a copy. So I'll run that code again. So you can see here that at first we had empty, which didn't have anything, but when we put Charles, we put the details. Yeah. So I'll now go to the student. All right. So here, so we said student inherits from parent, so that means we can come this side in our dot code, and now in this case I'll use a student named Brian. So final Brian is a student, so student, then we give them. So since it inherits, it means it takes in all the fields we had earlier. So I'll just copy and paste these there like this. Right. So we have these so this student object, let me import it, and it has these values like that. So in case we want to convert, let me first log this also so that you can have a look at it. Let me run it here on the right. So you can see here it prints Brian with, since Brian is also since this student object extends person, so even here when printing, it will print with the person constructor like that. But if we want, we can initialize also a toString for this side using still the other extension. You just put here .toString. So when we run our code again to compile, you can see here it prints the student with the details. So these other details we can put them, I'll copy paste them from this person object so that we don't do manual work. So I'll just come here, copy and paste, yeah, like that. So when we compile again, so this is just plain that, but we are going to shift to Flutter in a few, I think at the top of the hour. Yeah, so you can see now it prints student with the details. So in case we also wanted now to convert all these person objects to become student, one thing that we would do, so I'm going to show you another constructor here. So still in Flutter, you can create a constructor from another class. So assuming we want to get students from the person object, because we know all students are people, so we want to get their details, but we just change the student ID. So we shall do that here. So you can create this factory, we use this factory keyword because we want to convert this person we have then into a student ID, but without initializing again. So this factory method is just used to generate this same class but without using its constructor, but we can use any other parameters to return this initial class or initial constructor we had. So in this case, we are creating a student from a person object. I'll convert this to named parameters, so I'll put those. So we need this to pass in the person object, and then we also need to pass in the student ID. So here, when initializing the student object, we shall put the name from the person, the age from that same person, even the address, but what will change is the student ID. So we come back here to our main our simple.app. So now we want to create students. We shall start with Polly, the one we had at first, Polly, but this time as a student. I'll use this auto completion for faster. Let me just mark this section to be students. Okay, so in case you want to get Poly from student, will be final Poly student, sorry, equals to, so we just put that student, but since we are using this method of from person, the person here we had it as Poly, so the person object, so I'll paste it there. Then the student ID, we just put maybe KU dash any number like that. So here you can see we are using, instead of us initializing these values again, we are just getting them from this person object, and then we just pass in the student ID. So I'll again print this on the screen, print, then we print Poly. Sorry, my network got off. Let me rejoin here. So sorry, my network had gone off, but let me just reshare my screen. Okay, yeah, okay, click here. So I think I got off when I was explaining this concept of getting a class or a given object from another class. So here we are getting the details from this person and we are rendering them here. So Poly student, Poly as student, then we also print this. All right, so I'll just come here. So in case you are wondering, the AI that I'm using here to auto suggest, it is GitHub Copilot, and for students it is free. I attached the link here in these resources that I shared earlier. I attached the link of how to get the free plan for students. So all you need is just your student ID at campus, and then you upload it on the GitHub site, and you'll be able to get the free GitHub Copilot that you can use in your coding so that you're faster. Yeah. So it is here. You'll find it in these resources here. Maybe I can paste the link once again in the chat, but I think the moderator is also capturing these links so that at the end he'll share with you all in that WhatsApp group. Yeah, so you can get free GitHub Copilot for students, and then the paid version, like if you're not a student, it is also available but at a lower cost, so you can still get it because it will help you when you're coding. Okay, some things are more direct, you don't need to manually code them. So going back to this, so you can see here I got the student object and then got the values which we had in the person object and we passed them here. So that is another way of using these constructors and everything. So let me also convert these others that we had. We had Simon, then we had Brian, so let me do that also. So you can see Copilot autofills for you, so that some of these things, since they are the same, you don't have to redo them. So when I compile, you can see we still get all the values. So I think basically that's it from constructors. So now we are going to go into the Flutter code and we see how we can use these same constructors, but this time in the app, so that it is not just like this terminal, but it is something we can see on the app screen. So I'll just clear here this code, then we I hope the previous trainers took you into Flutter and all these initial classes, so I might not go deep into that, but I'll just go into the code. Oh, okay, I'm seeing people saying the previous team didn't. Okay, I'll just explain the basics of what this file is made up of, then we shall proceed from there. Okay, so the syntax of a Flutter app is almost the same like the one of Dart. They all start with this main function, so you can see here still main. So still Flutter, most of its code is classes. That's why this topic is so important, because all the code that you'll be writing for Flutter to create an app is made up of classes. As you can see here, this stateless widget is a class. Extending, inheriting, which we talked about earlier, here it is also because of classes. So everything in Flutter, beyond being just a widget, everything is just made up of these classes, because every code you write, we shall be inheriting from these widgets. Okay, since the earlier trainers didn't talk about them, I'll just share briefly about them. So in Flutter, everything you want to do, be it adding text, be it adding a button, be it adding colors, most things are widgets. So I'll just type in here, let me see. All right, Flutter widgets. Here, so I might not go much deeper, because I feel like there will be a session ahead where we shall go deeper into Flutter and all that. But one of the key takeaways you can know is that everything in Flutter is a widget. Be it let's say you want a text field, you want a button, you want to add text to your app, you want to add scrolling, you want to add a list, anything you want is a widget. Let me paste this link here, you can refer to it. But the high level structure of a Flutter app is that it all starts with this main method, and then in the main method we call this function here run app, because it is what runs in a given app that we have passed into it. So here this is a method that expects a widget, because you can, like I said, everything in Flutter is a widget, so even our app itself is a widget. You can see here it is a run function, but in the parameters it expects a widget. So in Flutter we have two types of widgets. Let me just go through them here. Widgets and types, so that when I run the app we are at least on the same point. So we have two types. One is stateless and the other is stateful. So from these two types of widgets, stateless, just like the word says, it has no state. So by this they mean nothing in that widget is changing. So whereas for stateful, it means something is changing over time. I'll show you like a mini example, then we shall proceed. So I'm just going to write here. So you might not need to cram this the structure of this class, because I've said we have stateless and stateful widgets. So, and let me just put down here the examples. So if you want a stateless widget, you just write the word stless like that, and then Flutter automatically comes with these code snippets made for you. Then you just select here, and then to write for you this code of the stateless widget, so that you don't have to cram it from scratch. All you need is just type that word. Let me shortcut, let me just put it here, just put stless,
It's 6 o'clock.
then you get it. Then here for stateful, the shortcut is stfull, so you just put st, let me just put here shortcut stfull. So even here, just come to your code and write stfull, then you just, it will automatically select for you this first one, which is stateful widget. Then I'll name it as my stateful widget. So this one, it is used in scenarios where the state is changing, and then the previous one is used in scenarios where nothing is changing. To best show this, I'll have to press Ctrl Z a number of times, but I've just stored, let me just store this code somewhere, so that we go back to the initial default app. It is like the hello world of Flutter, so I'll just show you that one. So main copy that. So this one I'll just keep it this side, since it was just explaining the concepts. So these errors you see here, it is because these widgets come from a file named material.dat, so we have to import it. And so this one is already inbuilt into the Flutter framework, so you don't need to hard code it, but it will automatically be filled from this material.dat class. So I'll put those ones here, and then we go back here. I just want to press Ctrl Z so that we get back that initial Flutter app. This code I'll deploy it on GitHub, and then share the link with the organizers to share with you all. So yeah, good. So this is the initial Flutter app. Whenever you create a new Flutter app, I didn't show you those commands, but I know a session will come where we shall go deep into all those. But when you create a new Flutter app, this is the hello world code you find. It is like the initial code you find, and it clearly shows you all those types of widgets where we have stateless and then stateful. So like I said, in a stateless widget, nothing is changing. We just have normal widgets. We don't expect any variable to change, so that's why they are like this. But when you come to this now stateful widget, still you don't need to cram all these. When you write the other keyword, it will automatically write for you a dummy class like this, so that you don't have to cram all these things. So let me just rename this. Right, so you can see here now in the stateful widget we have a variable called counter, but the state of this counter is changing over time. You can see here counter plus plus, so every time we are incrementing the value of this counter whenever we press a button. So let me compile this code for you. I'll also leave it there. I'll create a file where I'll put it so that you can refer to it. So let me compile it here on the emulator. It will take about a few seconds, I think, and then it will render. So let me just display that here. Right. So to compile this Flutter app, you just come above this main function, you click on this run button, and then it will compile. So it will take some few seconds, I guess, and then it will run. Right. So as it runs, I can be continuing with some of these concepts, then as we wait for it to run. So this initial code has these comments, so you can read through them. I'll leave them there. So what happens in this sample app they have is that they show you an app which renders a text. Like I said, everything is in Flutter is a widget, so even if you want to add text, you call the text widget still. In case you want to render items vertically, you use this column widget. In case you want to render items horizontally, you use the row widget. Yeah, but I think I've ever made a talk about that. So if you come here to my website, I had a session where I took people through that. So you can check in one of these sessions, you'll find like all those concepts, mostly these Flutter series. I explained like all those basics, so you can check them out. Even this video after the call, I'll also upload it and then share the link so that you can follow along after. Let me paste that. So here there are a number of sessions, so every session I do, I put its resources, you can check them out. So that's where I also explained this concept of stateless and stateful widgets and all that. Yeah, so our app compiled, like I said, it will take a few seconds. So you can see here it compiled, and then this text, let me just put this down so that it doesn't distract. Then I'll zoom into the code. So you can see here the text we have. This text, you have pushed the button this many times. So even here on our app, you can see on the left, you have pushed the button this many times, as you can see there. Then here they show you the counter, which is this value, which is an integer. But since this is a stateful widget, we know our state will be changing. So whenever we click this button, you can see the number changing there on the left. So you can see the number of this counter increasing. So that is what makes this a stateful widget, because the state of this counter value, which starts at 0, keeps on changing. Whenever we press a button, the state changes. So how we update the state is by using this method of set state. So when I click this button, I call this method set state, and then inside set state we shall increment the counter. So that's how it works. So that's the key difference between stateful and stateless widgets. So I'll put this code somewhere so that we can use our objects which we had initially, the one of person and student. Yeah, so that we create a sample app that we can use for this session. I think we shall be done in like the next 20 minutes or 10. Yeah, so just stick around. So I'll just put this code here, sample app dot. So I paste it there. So you can always refer to these comments and all and read through them. Yeah, they all come from the material class, like I said, so you just import it up there. So now I'm going to delete this code so that we now go into our main session of using our objects. So I'll create here a stateless widget. Yeah, okay, let me create it in a new file. So list of people. Yeah, so the naming, usually Flutter recommends you name your files in this format of using snake case, whereby you put these underscores to replace the spaces, and then you use lowercase for the namings. So list of people list maybe. So that right. So like I said, most things we shall be doing in Flutter are widgets and then classes. So I'll create here a stateless class that shows a list of people. So I'll do that, stateless, then I name it as people list. Yeah, or you can name it anything, this name just changes. So this will just show a list of people. Most of my time when I'm coding, I always put comments so that when I'm referring to the code in the future, it is easy for me to know what I was doing. So you can also take on that. The good thing now, we have like AI, so it can put for you these comments so that you don't have to do things manually. So I'll call here our people list, that widget. And then one thing we have in Flutter is this feature of hot reload, whereby you make a change, then press Ctrl S and it reloads the whole app. You don't need to do things from scratch, you don't need to rebuild the whole app again. So in our code, maybe going back to this sample app we had, you notice there was this widget called scaffold, but since this code is too like commented, I'll put it the other side and explain everything. So when you come to a fresh page like this, you can see it is rendering just this X. So the widget that renders that X is called placeholder. So it is just a placeholder to show that at this point we need something. But so to do that, we shall put here scaffold. Okay, so scaffold is more like for those who have done web development, you know that body tag, this one which is in this format, body. Let me just put here a comment. So the same way you have body from web development, those who have done it in that HTML and CSS, so something like this. So even in this scenario, scaffold becomes our body, and then we start putting in components. So here I'll change this. So let me Control S. So you can see here, using still that functionality of hot reload, I just press Control S and then it automatically shows my changes here on the emulator. So scaffold, like I said, is like the body widget for those who have done web development. So it has various components like app bar, then it has the body section, and then it has also other features like the bottom navigation bar. So it has a list of features that it takes on. So I'll just put for you an example of here. So it has like this bottom navigation bar. It can also have this floating action button like we had in the previous sample. Actually, let me just copy that from the previous sample. So this floating action button, so anything you want to do on a given screen, be it adding this floating action button or doing anything on this screen, you'll always use this scaffold. So scaffold acts like the parent, and then inside you start putting components like the app bar. Maybe let me just comment out so that you see where these are placed. So app bar is this thing at the top here with the word people list. Then we come to the body, it is this X that you see here. Then we come to the floating action button. So all these you can see, like I told you, everything is classes. So all these are named parameters still, like we showed earlier when we had named parameters in our example, these ones. So even these Flutter widgets, they also have the named parameters. So that's why you see when we call app bar, we put, then we call body, we also put, then floating action button, it is this cutting here with a plus, and then the bottom navigation bar, it is this thing that is usually at the bottom with sometimes it usually has icons. Maybe let me put here some right. So let me do this. I'll reload. So usually it is at the bottom and it has like a number of icons like you can see here. So but now we want to replace this section here. We want to replace our body, and we put the list of people. So I'll just rename this to be, so for renaming F2, so I'll rename it to people screen. Yeah, so I'll create a separate widget. In case you're wondering why I usually separate widgets and also make files shorter, there's some principle in coding called the solid principle, solid in this format of SO. So you can research about it after this session, or in case you don't want to research about it, you can refer to my talk, this one, crafting reusable app templates. So you can refer to that talk, I described it there. So the thing is that you should always make sure that each widget does only one particular task. This helps you in the future when you are maintaining your code base. You can know what is happening at a given point. For example, here you can see this is just the main section and initializing our app. Then I come to the people screen, just renders our scaffold. So now I'll create another file to render our list of people, so that in the future when I'm maintaining this code base, it is easy for me to refer back and know, like at this point, this was the issue. But assuming you have here over 500 lines of code and you get an error maybe on line 101, so by the time you figure that out, you'll be stressed about the coding. But if you use like this solid principle, I talked about it here, I put some descriptions, so you can read along in this. I might not go deeper into it, but you can just go on my site, then you refer to this article. It explains everything about why you should do your code base like this. So I'll create now another widget. So the advantage with Flutter is that you can have a widget inside another widget. For example, here we have scaffold, but inside scaffold we have another widget. So you can nest, in short, you can nest widgets into each other. So I'll create now the people list. We are running out of time, so people, this one, sorry, I'll rename this to screen, then I'll create another one. So people list that. Okay, so in here still shall use stateless widget, and I will call this widget people list. So in here we shall render a list of people. So we are going to create a file called data.dat. So I'll get some names from here from our meeting, and then I use those ones when rendering our list. So I'm seeing here some people, so I'm going to just copy the names and I use those. Okay, let me just take a screenshot. And then, alright, so this is what I'll use here in our Flutter app. Alright, let me save this. I just want to quicken the process, so in case you're wondering what's going on, let me see. So under screenshots, then I guess get this. Alright, open with preview. I just want to copy all names at once, so that's why I put it here, so that I can be able to do that. Alright, so I'll copy all these names, then they are the ones we shall use in our side here. Alright, so don't mind these ones, I'm just going to remove them, but we are going to create people objects based on these names. So since we already saw how to initialize these, I'm just going to assign it to AI. So I still encourage you guys to use AI when coding, because it will save you a lot of time and effort. And mostly if you're still a student, you can get that access to GitHub Copilot for students. Let me see if I have the link here so that I can paste it in the chat. Yeah, so it is this GitHub developer pack. So for students, you get free access to these AI tools and then a number of other tools. So let me paste it in the chat, you will have a look at it. So you get a number of free tools that you can use. So all you need is just your student ID and you get access to all these features. So now, like the GitHub Copilot, please get it. the good thing, it is free, so you just get it. So I'll just create here a list. Sorry. So put here a comment, a list of people. So final list people equals. So here we shall initialize that list, but our list is made up of these person objects which we had created earlier. For in case you were not there at the start, we created an object here called person, so it is what we shall use to have all these values. So I'll go back here. Right, so for now I'll assume that most of you are from Kabale University, so I'll create here a dummy person. So final person from alright, final. Okay. Alright. Let me see, because I just want us to create copies of this person. So the name, we shall start without any name, and then the age also shall start with 0, yeah, or 1, so that we just create a copy. Yep, let me just put here, sorry, 0. Alright, right. So for now we are going to create now. Let me import this. Let me see, name is required. What? Okay, sorry. So for now we are just going to create a copy, since we are assuming that all these are from Kabale University, so we are all going to make them to copy from that. So I'll just come here. The first person is Brian, so I put that dot copy with. So we are just changing, for now I'll change the name, then you can see here the AI autofills for you, so this makes it easier. So let me see, age, say 20. So age, I'll just put dummy numbers. So the next person we had on the list was Tracy, so Tracy, then the AI puts, then so you can see that AI saves you some good number of minutes, so that you don't have to hard code all these things. You just use it and it will save you from the hassle. So now this list is what we shall render in our UI. So now let me put this on the side here. So that is our data, and then this is our Flutter widget. So alright, so we want to render this list onto our app. Let me bring it up again onto this section here. So in Flutter there is a widget called list view. So still, before we go into much details on how it works, there you can see the AI suggesting for me, but you can see it is also a class still, but it also has a number of constructors, and we shall be using one of its constructors, this one called builder. So you can either initialize the list view in this normal format, or you can use the builder. So in short, you see these concepts that we have, these concepts of classes, you see them showing up every time in Flutter. So it is a very important topic, so you can still read through this documentation about classes and go much further into constructors, methods, and all that, then extending a class. I covered most of this, but I was just giving the overview, but you can just go and read through this whole section. It covers about that and constructors, so you can still see them being used here even in widgets. But for now, in this widget called list view, which renders a list of objects on the screen, we shall use this constructor here of builder, but I'll first show you the first example without builder, then the next example with builder, and you see the difference. So list view expects children. So children is just a parameter, it is just a name, and it expects children, which is a list of widgets, since everything in Flutter is a widget. So I'll do that. So for now we want to render these people here, so I'll call the first person list of people, so list, then I call the first person. So this is when I'm doing it manually, so I just want to show you the key difference between the builder and then this normal one. Alright, let me, I think I'm using a lot of space, let me just pull this up again. So I'll reload. Okay, let me do a build here. Alright, so let me, I'm just putting here, I'm doing this manually, putting the list of people from the first one, the second person, third, and then the fourth. But since this is an array, we all know that all arrays start from index 0, so that's why we have 0, 1, then and the rest follow. So I'll call now this people list widget when we go back to our code of the people screen. Here I'll replace this placeholder which has this X, I replace it with our people list widget. So I import it, Ctrl S. So you can see here now we have a list of these people. The first one that we had, let me bring them back here. So you can see the first one, Mugisa Brian, Tracy, Lelia, so you can see them here. So in short, we are just getting this list and then rendering its components there. But you notice that using this method here, it is more like a hassle. We are doing things manually. That's why this list view widget has the other constructor called builder. So I'll leave this code there also for someone to follow along maybe and refer to it. So I'll call it people list manual, yeah, manual method. So yeah, so now we are going to replace this and try to automate these things so that we don't write a lot of code. So to do that, we shall use the builder constructor. So put here dot builder, and then this it is also a named constructor, and it expects variables like item count and item builder. So for now, you might not need to know how these work, because there will be a session, I believe, for Flutter where we shall go deeper. But for now, in case you're wondering what is happening, so this is, we are calling this constructor, passing in the number of items we want to render on the screen, which is the length of this list here. Let me see if we have to count manually. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we have 10 names. So that length we get it from this list. Then inside here, item builder, it is a function that returns a widget, as you can see here. Function which returns a widget, and it expects two parameters: the build context and the index of this item, which is an integer. So you can always hover over a given parameter and then you find some documentation comments about it. In case you are stuck, you can just always hover, then they tell you what it does. Yeah. So inside here we are returning this same list style. So list style is also a widget in Flutter that allows you to have a widget with a title, subtitle, or you can even add some other field if you want, like an icon. You want to add a leading icon. So it has a number of parameters, so it simplifies your time in case you are rendering a list like this one. So you can just always add like these various parameters, as you can see here. So it has a number of fields. You can see when you hover over it in its constructor, you can see all these many fields, so you can always take use of them. So in the manual method, still we are using the same list style, but entering fields like manually. But now here, this is more like a for loop in short. If you have done coding before, you want that for loop that loops through items, you can use this. So this list view.builder is more like a for loop and renders the items. So in case you don't want to use that list view.builder, you can still use this same old list view that we had. So I'll bring it back here, return list view, like that, like that, like that. So you can still use a for loop in case you are used to the for loops, like that. Then it will still do the same thing here. So you can still see when I press Ctrl S to reload, it still shows as required. Maybe to easily differentiate, you can still see whenever I hot reload, things change here accordingly. So you can either use this manual method, but Flutter, so that you don't need to redo it again like this, just use the builder, which is part of the constructor, and then render the items accordingly. So I think if you have any questions, you can feel free to ask. But I think I've showed you the example of how to write a class in Flutter and then reuse it this side. Maybe lastly, as I finish, we can create a student list in case all these are students and we want to give them student IDs. Maybe that can be the last one. As those with questions, you can be preparing them. That. So now I'll create another widget here that renders students. Copy code from here. So in case you have any question, you can be preparing it. So here, let me show you here before we go further. So here, this list view.builder, it gets for us this list of people, but at each point it gets for us the person at that given index. For example, index 0, it will get for us Brian. Index 1, it gets Tracy. Index 2, it gets Lelia, like that. So it keeps getting items at a given index. But now, for us, we want students, not these people. So we shall come here, students. So final. So to get the students, since we know that these students extend the person class, so we shall just come here, person dot copy with. So we shall give these all that student ID. So I'll do that here. I'll use the constructor we had, student dot from person. Let me import the student class here. So it was getting the student from a person, like that. So student ID, for now I'll create a random one, KU, and then I base it on the index still, KU hash $, index +1. So that will be the student index. So you can see still using our constructor. So we know this is a list of people, but since we want now to render students in this screen, I'll rename it also to student list. So here we have transformed this person object into a student, so we can now render it into our UI accordingly. So here student.name, but at the end of this name, let me first get those suggestions. So at the end of this name, we want to add the student ID, because that is what differentiates this student. So we can get the student ID still. In Flutter, let me just go back a little bit. So in case you want to combine strings in Flutter, how you do it is using this $, then this curly bracket. So for example, now I want to add here the student ID. So I just come here, put that $, then open the bracket, student dot, then I access the parameter. So here we have combined the two strings. This is how you do it in Flutter. You just use the $sign, then you pass. Here I'm just adding this dash just to for it to appear clearly in our user interface. Maybe I'll change the color of this tile. So tile color, maybe colors dot green. I think I use green. Yeah, 50, yeah, 100. Alright, so now we are going to go in our section in the app into this people list which we had at first, this people screen, and then we shall comment out this so that our body has the student list like that. So I import it still, so Control S, you can see it renders here our people list. In case we want some spacing between these items, still everything in Flutter is a widget, so there's this widget called padding. It is what we shall use to add space around our items. So you can see once I wrap, in case you are wondering where I got it from, Flutter has a number of extensions to its widgets. So you just come on a widget, press Ctrl dot, then it will show you this pop-up, and then you just select some of the most used widgets. In this case we want the padding, so I select that, then I press Ctrl S, and you can see it here. That's the spacing. So yeah, those who have questions, you can feel free to ask, but otherwise for now that is the basic example of having classes in that and then using them in any way you want. Yeah, I hand over back to the organizer so that in case anyone has a question, you can feel free to ask. Yeah, thank you so much. I'll be pushing this code to GitHub and I share the link. I can do it now actually. Yeah. Alright, thank you so much. I don't know if the moderator is still around, but he can take us from here.
Alright, thank you, Mr. Mugisha.
Welcome.
Well, full session. I don't know whether there is a question. Do we have any questions, members? If there is any question, then it's the right time. Hello, can anyone hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, but I think maybe there are no questions from the team.
Oh, it's fine.
Yeah, I'm seeing someone with
So,
a question. Yes, I saw someone raising this hand. You can ask.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mugisha.
Welcome.
Now, for me, my inquiry is about this extension, the extension you use for this frame of the phone.
Oh, this frame of the phone. Actually, it is not an extension, it is an emulator. So most cases when you're running your Flutter app, it will show you here a list of devices. Maybe you can first meet. Yeah, it will show you here a list of devices. Then once you select the device, you can use any that they show you, either Chrome or Android or macOS. So here, since I'm on a Mac, it shows this one for iPhone, but on Windows it will show this Android emulator. So these ones you install them when you get Android Studio on your machine. It will tell you to install an emulator, then you install it, so that Flutter will automatically detect it here. These frames, they will automatically appear because the emulator comes with them. It is not an extension. Yeah, I hope that answers your question, sir. Akram, I hope that answers your question.
all right. If there are no any other questions, otherwise, thank you, Brian, for your wonderful session.
Welcome.
I hope we have got a lot, and we shall refer to the GitHub account for more revision.
Yeah. Then
Uh,
maybe lastly, maybe some of you might need to get in touch. Just open any of these slides from this website. At the end, you'll find there all my contact information, like the WhatsApp, the email, then the LinkedIn. Yeah, then we can be in touch. Thank you.
all right, thank you.
Okay.
So members, today is day 4. Tomorrow